Hello everyone, I'm Mike DeAngelo with That's Entertainment, and this is your video review of Final Fantasy Fables, Chocobo's Dungeon, by h.a.n.d. Around 1980, a game that inspired a genre all its own was released. It was called Rogue. Since its debut, countless clones and roguelikes have surfaced, and some of the most critically acclaimed games of all time, like Diablo, saw the light of day because of just 2 developers. 8 years later, a fluffy feathered bird fought its way into an entire franchise. Chocobos began appearing in the Final Fantasy games, and slowly but surely began developing a fanbase of their own. 9 years after that, a combination of the two arrived on the Japanese market. Chocobo's Mysterious Dungeon paved the way for countless roguelike, Chocobo-infused sequels for years to come. 10 years after Mysterious Dungeon came out, Final Fantasy Fables was released for the Wii. But is time alone responsible for the well-being and standing of the game's successor?
It looks like something fell out of the sky.
While searching for a way to get his airship airborne, Sid and his treasure-hunting partner Chocobo scour into a set of ruins looking for a fabled artifact. Some old rivals stand in the way of the heroes and activate a terrible vortex which sends the two protagonists far away, landing them in a town called Lost Time. In Lost Time, there is a bell tower which has the magical properties of removing people's memories. Unfortunately for Chocobo, the latest victim of the tower's power is Sid. Unable to sum up any of his history, Sid can't remember his own name, let alone his time spent with Chocobo. But all hope is not lost. A mysterious infant named Raffaello appears in town, and has some magical powers of his own. The baby's abilities are able to create a labyrinth within a person's mind, leading toward the lost memories. The team of Chocobo and Raffaello is the last hope that the people of Lost Time have. Just like in traditional roguelike games, the dungeons that Chocobo must navigate are fairly simplistic and straightforward. The layouts are randomly generated, the battles are turn-based, and there is a wide variety of enemies and effects that the player must persevere through. There are also some bosses that dwarf the yellow-feathered hero and pack a mean punch. The game sadly lacks a good deal of strategy. The simplistic nature of the roguelike genre doesn't carry over well to this hero, despite some ideas that try to spice things up. For one, you can assign Chocobo different jobs from the Final Fantasy franchise, making him a knight or a black mage, for instance. Worse still, it takes a very long time to actually get to the full structure of Chocobo's dungeon. You have to wade through almost an hour of tutorials before the game stops holding your hand.
Chocobo? Forgetting is a virtue.
The presentation can be really hit or miss in Final Fantasy Fables. Visually pleasing at some points and ridiculously underperformed in other places, it's tough to make an educated, complete opinion on the aesthetics. FMVs are only slightly below par for a Final Fantasy game, while the stale, overused graphics of dungeons and somewhat childish-seeming characters are way under the level of competency that you expect from Square, whether or not they are letting an outside developer work their franchise. The music is one of the only clear winners in the equation. With a wide assortment of classic Final Fantasy tunes to choose from, it would have been truly difficult to lose points there. The sound and voice work are somewhat like the graphics though. At certain points, they seem just right. At other times, something is either overplayed, like some over-the-top vocals, or not powerful enough, like the dull sound effects that play during some dungeon encounters. If you decide that the game is something you like, you're lucky due to the fact that the enemies will continue to appear in the dungeons, and it is very rare for 2 dungeons to be exactly alike. With that in mind, every time you play the game, it could be a new experience. The addition of the job system helps a little bit in adding to strategy, but it doesn't help to buy too much time to enjoy the length of the game. And instead, a collection of mini-games set the mood for some more casual fare, helping to relax and just have fun. While both roguelike games and the plush yellow Chocobo have found countless measures of success before, this mix is not pure gold. It can be fun, sure, but there are other games that pull their weight more than this. When the main portion of the game locks you down to the same mundane standard, you begin to notice that things are just a little tedious. Other than that though, things can be fairly pleasant, if a little simple. That's Entertainment awards Final Fantasy Fables, Chocobo's Dungeon, a score of 7 out of 10.